But as you realise, we've had an accountability work stream taking place over the last number of months, and we've made some calls today with respect to accountability with respect to elected members. And if I read you just two parts of the resolution that deals with our decision with respect to elected members and accountability. There's a part 3 where we reluctantly accept advice that there is no robust legal basis on which council could bring damages claims against its former elected members, and that we direct the Chief Executive to ask the Auditor General to review her position in relation to a claim under sections 44 to 47 of the Local Government Act 2002 in light of the recent High Court decision in the Mangawhai Ratepayers and Residents Association judicial review proceedings. So we passed those two parts with respect to elected members. With respect to the Auditor General, the relevant part of the resolution that you'll be interested in is that we agree that the Council should pursue a claim against the Auditor General and instructs the Chief Executive to work with Council's advisors to complete a statement of claim for discussion with the Auditor General and subsequent filing with the High Court following expiry of the limitation period included in the standstill agreement. So that's the action to be taken with respect to the Auditor General. And the final one is with respect to the former Chief Executive of the Council. We determined that the Council should pursue a claim against the former Chief Executive, and we instruct the Chief Executive to work with the Council's advisors to prepare a statement of problem against the former Chief Executive and subsequent filing with the Employment Relations Authority. Well, I mean, I think I can say that it's been considerable work and advice, work put in and advice received with respect to these matters over many months. The Council has invested in legal advice to, again, a significant extent in this, and so this will move it to the next step of taking it forward.
John, could I ask, in your action against Jack McKercher, you would say you're taking it from the Employment Relations Authority. Why there not, say, the High Court, if it's a civil case for loss?
So that's based on the advice that we've received.
So do you think it's easier to win a case in the Employment Relations Authority than it would be in the High Court, or easier to get reparation or compensation? I really don't want to talk too much about that next process, but the advice was quite clear to us on where we needed to go on that.
So you're not sure what the action will be, whether it will be for reparation or a reprimand or something else like that? Is it for reparation?
We'll
be seeking to recover damages of some kind.
You also say in the government statement that you'll decide whether or not next month whether you'll take legal action against consultancies involved in the project, including Becca. Does that also include, for example, the bankers and those who are raising the financial deals?
There is no action that the Council is considering taking against banks or bankers.
Decided to leave until next month to decide whether to take legal action against the consultancies. Why have you left it? Why not make this decision now?
It's just a volume of work. I have to say the Council has been burdened considerably, not only in this matter but with some other matters over many months, and coming to conclusions. It would have been nice to wrap all this up in one, but we're not there yet.
Now, with regards to the former councillors in the mayor, etc., you put that back on the Auditor General, there would be no reparations involved there, or you don't know what would be we're taking an action?
The Auditor General's got some powers under the Local Government Act with respect to elected members, sections 44 to 47. In her Auditor General's report on the Mangawhai scheme, in her November 2000, in her report on the inquiry, the Auditor General considered these powers. She advised that in the view of her office, it would not be appropriate to exercise the power in this case, where the facts and legal issues are very complex, are already before the court, and defences are likely to be available. So on page 271 of this report, that's a direct quote from it. What Council's decided to do is to request that she review that decision, to ask that.
The High Court decision.
No, whether she would use the powers that she has under the Local Government Act provisions, given what the judgment, part of the judgment said in the High Court case. So that's totally in her hands, and for her decision, it's not influenced by us.
You say there's no strong legal advice to take action against former councillors, but surely the mayor at the time, as the political leader of the council, has some accountability here. So why, individual councillors have only one vote, but the mayor has a role of leadership, which obviously he cannot fulfil very well. Why aren't you taking action against the former mayor?
The advice is clear, as we've said, that there aren't avenues there for us. Certainly everyone who was elected in those days today is accountable for the decisions of council, but that doesn't necessarily flow into a liability in a sense.
So they were part of the General's.
Yes, so she can review that matter.
In the action you're taking against Jack McCurcher, you say you're trying to hold Mr McCurcher to account for his actions during the last 6 years. Why that 6 years? Why not all his actions during his time as chief executive that relate to this?
So one of the constraints that we face in any action looking back is a statute of limitations constraint that effectively says that you can't look back further than 6 years from the point that you take the action. And so in this, we're constrained by the fact that 6 years of history can be looked at, but not longer than that.
Mr McCurcher left in 2011. So is that 6 years from 6 years before he left, or 6 years from today's date?
6 years from today's date.
So effectively, anything he did before, say, 2008, you can't do anything about. How much is it all going to cost? I mean, you've already spent $1 million on lawyers. This is, can you afford it?
So the cost to date is now, in this exercise in legal costs, just over $200,000.
That's just on this issue.
Just getting to this stage today of reviewing the options, if you like, for council in terms of bringing people or organisations to account.
Who are the legal advisors? Who are the legal advisors?
Simpson Gress.
Are they the same lawyers who have been representing the council in the case of the Mangawhai case?
Correct.
So in the best case scenario, would there be some forgiveness on some of the debt through the action, or would it just simply be?
None of this is about forgiveness of debt. Any monies recovered through these exercises would come into council and will have an impact on debt, may be used to pay down debt.
So got any idea how long it's going to take in these processes? As you say, the one that will generally be in files 5 years. Case by October. Are there any active discussions going on to settle a matter out of court?
There's no active discussions going on to settle out of court. We do have an agreement with the Auditor General that's called a standstill agreement to, we talked about the statute of limitations before. The standstill agreement basically has stopped the clock. So as of May, I think it was. Just Steve might look up in that. I think it was March, April. So that 6-year period, when Steve discovers that, will it's 6 years back from that date earlier this year.
That's as far as Auditor General is concerned.
Yes, we have no other agreements with any other parties.
March.
It's March this year.
Yep.
So
you can only go back to March 2008.
that's correct. So in terms of costs, in terms of timetable going forward, this is really hard to predict. This is court processes, and it will take time.
Have the parties been notified?
The Auditor General,
Obviously because of the standstill.
but the Auditor General has been notified of the decision today.
What about Mr. McCutcheon?
No.
Not as yet, no.
Is that going to be a problem because this will probably go out today?
It's no problem. Yeah.
Might be drawing along over here. John, as Bill said, these two measures were what the MRRA was sort of looking for from way back. Is there any likelihood, or alternatively, Mike Saban, although he's got to weather an election, he was keen to move some sort of action towards the Auditor General. Is there anything likely to happen regarding some sort of coming together of Saban and yourselves and the MRRA, dare I say it, in regard to a show of unity and strength in pursuing these?
I think the pursuit of these is very much a legal mechanism now. I think we've have to work with our professional advisors on this, and that's the way we'll go about it. The local MP, Mike Saban, has certainly expressed great concern over this, as have indeed some members of Parliament when the validation bill was being spoken to. So,
Could have a reasonable following.
yeah, well, yes. So, but in the end, I guess now it will be up to the Auditor General to first for us to make the next moves in terms of proceedings, and the Auditor General specifically to respond to that. So how that works out over time, we have no idea.
See that happened before, and the other, this is the precedent.
I'm not aware of any other council ever taking action against the Auditor General. There have been a number of employment disputes between councils and chief executives over the years, but even in that context, this action will be extraordinary in terms of the local government framework in New Zealand.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.